October 22nd, 1764. Major Hector Munro stood on the banks of the Ganges River near Buxar with 7,000 soldiers facing an impossible situation. 40,000 warriors assembled by the most powerful alliance India had ever seen. The Mughal Emperor himself commanded them. The Nawab of Bengal wanted revenge. The Nawab of Awadh brought his finest troops. 3 rulers united to crush the British East India Company and drive it from India forever. No reinforcements, no escape. Just 7,000 men against 40,000. 1-6 odds, a tactical plan that would either conquer an empire or end in total annihilation. The next few hours would decide whether Britain ruled India or was expelled completely. What happened was one of the most decisive victories in British history. Complete annihilation of an army 6 times larger. This is the Battle of Buxar. 7,000 British soldiers destroyed 40,000. The battle that proved Britain could defeat the Mughal Empire in open combat. The moment the East India Company became rulers of India. Welcome to Britain's history. Today we're covering the battle that truly won India, through military superiority, not conspiracy. But before that flanking manoeuvre, before we watch Munro's force tear apart 40,000 warriors, we need to understand why this happened. Without knowing the conflict that led here, you can't appreciate why this mattered more than Plassey. If you're enjoying this, subscribe. We cover battles that built the empire, moments when Britain faced impossible odds, and won through discipline and firepower. Let's go back to June 1757, when Robert Clive won the famous Battle of Plassey against the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah. That victory is celebrated in British history textbooks. Every schoolchild learns about it. Clive defeated the Nawab with a small force, installed a puppet ruler named Mir Kasim, and secured British control over Bengal, the richest province in India, more economically valuable than most European kingdoms. Company control over Bengal meant unlimited wealth, unlimited power, unlimited potential for expansion. End of story, right? Wrong, because here's what they don't always teach. Plassey wasn't really a military battle. It was won through massive bribery and carefully orchestrated treachery, not military superiority. Clive paid Mir Kasim and his senior generals enormous bribes to betray Siraj-ud-Dowlah during the battle. When fighting started, most of the Nawab's army simply didn't engage. They stood there passively while Clive's forces destroyed the few loyal units. The actual combat was minimal, perhaps an hour of serious fighting before the Nawab's army collapsed due to Mir Kasim's betrayal. Clive essentially bought Bengal with gold rather than conquering it through force. And that created a strategic problem for the British, because everyone across India knew exactly how Clive had won Plassey. The British weren't feared as superior warriors. They weren't respected as tactical geniuses. They were seen as wealthy merchants with deep pockets who could bribe their way to power. Indian rulers throughout the subcontinent looked at Plassey and drew an obvious conclusion. The British only win through conspiracy and money. If we assemble enough force that bribery won't work, if we make them fight a real battle, they'll lose. This widespread perception would prove catastrophically, disastrously wrong. But first someone needed to test it. Enter Mir Kasim, the man who would change everything. In 1760, just 3 years after Plassey, the British deposed their own puppet, Mir Kasim, because he couldn't control Bengal effectively and was making unauthorised deals behind company backs. They replaced him with his son-in-law, Mir Kasim, confidently expecting another weak, compliant puppet who'd rubber stamp whatever the company wanted. But Mir Kasim was fundamentally different from his corrupt father-in-law. He was efficient, intelligent, ambitious, and genuinely patriotic. He didn't want to be another British puppet. He actually wanted to rule Bengal as an independent Nawabi. Mir Kasim immediately began ambitious military modernization. He hired European military advisors, mostly French officers eager to train his troops in European tactics and discipline. He reformed Bengal's entire tax collection system, so wealth flowed efficiently to his treasury rather than enriching British merchants through special privileges. He built modern arsenals and fortifications. He drilled soldiers constantly in European formations. Within just 2 years, Mir Kasim had transformed Bengal from a weak puppet state into what appeared to be a formidable military power, with an army that could potentially match British forces in equipment and training. Then in early 1762, Mir Kasim made his bold political move. He abolished all trade taxes throughout Bengal, completely levelled the commercial playing field between British and Bengali merchants. This was brilliant economic policy, but a direct challenge to company power. The British East India Company's entire business model absolutely depended on special tax exemptions that gave British merchants crushing competitive advantages. When Mir Kasim abolished all taxes equally, British merchants suddenly couldn't undercut Bengali competition anymore. They were furious. The Company Council in Calcutta demanded Mir Kasim immediately restore their special privileges. Mir Kasim flatly refused. Why should foreign merchants enjoy tax advantages in his territory? If the British wanted to trade in Bengal, they'd trade on the same terms as everyone else. The company issued threatening ultimatums. Mir Kasim stood firm. By early 1763, Bengal and the East India Company were at war. This was the first genuine test of British military power in India. No bribery, no conspiracies. Just straight combat between trained company troops and a determined Indian army led by a competent commander who understood European tactics. And the British won, decisively, repeatedly, overwhelmingly. Major Hector Munro, a tough Scottish professional soldier, commanded company forces through an impressive series of victories throughout 1763. At Katwa, Munro's disciplined troops systematically destroyed Mir Kasim's advance forces. At Murshidabad, British firepower shattered much larger enemy formations. At Giria, Suti and Munga, the same pattern repeated. Mir Kasim's modernised, European-trained army simply couldn't match actual European military discipline and tactical execution. British troops fired faster, reloaded more efficiently, maintained perfect formation under pressure, and executed complex manoeuvres that Indian forces couldn't replicate, even with European training. Every battle proved the same lesson. Authentic European military discipline, when properly executed, was devastatingly superior to any Indian military system. Mir Kasim's French advisors had taught his troops European drill movements and formations. But drill wasn't enough. British and company troops had internalised European military culture. The absolute obedience to orders in combat, the willingness to stand in formation while being shot at, the deep trust that fellow soldiers would hold the line. That culture couldn't be taught in 2 years. It was built over generations of European warfare. By late 1763, Mir Kasim was in complete retreat, fleeing Bengal with whatever demoralised troops remained loyal after repeated defeats. He'd lost his throne, his treasury, his capital, his army, everything. But Mir Kasim hadn't given up. He'd learned one crucial lesson. He couldn't defeat the British alone. No single Indian ruler could match British military capability. But what if he built an alliance? What if he gathered every major power in northern India that feared British expansion? What if he assembled an army so massive that British discipline simply wouldn't matter? Sheer numbers would crush tactical superiority. Mir Kasim fled west to Awadh, a wealthy state in the middle Ganges region, ruled by Nawab Shuja-ud-Dawla. Awadh was prosperous, well-governed, and possessed a substantial military. Shuja-ud-Dawla had his own compelling reasons to fear the British. If the company had conquered Bengal, the richest province in India, what would stop them from taking Awadh next? The British were clearly building an empire, not just maintaining trading posts. Every rational Indian ruler should be worried. Mir Kasim and Shuja-ud-Dawla agreed to form a military alliance against British expansion, 2 regional powers uniting. But they needed more than regional nawabs. They needed legitimacy. They needed a figurehead who would rally all of India. They needed the ultimate symbol of Indian authority. They needed the Mughal Emperor himself. Shah Alam II, the nominal emperor of the collapsing Mughal Empire, was in 1764 essentially a powerless wanderer, desperately trying to reassert authority. The Mughal Empire that had ruled most of India for over 2 centuries was falling apart. Regional powers had declared independence. The emperor controlled little beyond contested Delhi. Shah Alam II had lost battles, lost territory, lost prestige. He was desperate for any opportunity to rebuild Mughal power and reclaim lost provinces. When Mir Kasim and Shuja-ud-Dawla approached Shah Alam II with a proposal to unite against the British and reconquer Bengal, the emperor accepted immediately. Here was a chance to reassert Mughal authority, to prove the emperor still mattered, to reclaim rich Bengal from foreign usurpers. For Shah Alam II, this alliance was a political lifeline. Think about what this alliance represented. Mir Kasim, the deposed Nawab of Bengal, who understood British tactics and knew their weaknesses from bitter experience. Shuja-ud-Dawla, the powerful Nawab of Awadh, controlling vast financial resources and a large, well-equipped army. And Shah Alam II, the Mughal emperor himself, symbolic head of Islamic authority in India, direct descendant of the conquerors who'd built the Mughal Empire. Three major rulers representing different regions and interests, all unified against British expansion. This was the most formidable, dangerous alliance the company had faced in India. The coalition systematically assembled an enormous army. Contemporary sources estimated 40,000 to 50,000 troops, though some accounts claim even higher numbers. The exact figures remain debated, but everyone agrees the Allied army was absolutely massive. The combined force included substantial infantry units trained in modern European tactics, Mir Kasim's remaining troops, plus Awadh regiments drilled by European advisors. Powerful cavalry forces including the fearsome Afghan and Rohilla horsemen, known throughout India for their martial prowess. Impressive artillery, over 130 cannon of various calibers, from light field guns to heavy siege pieces. War elephants for psychological impact. And crucially, experienced French military advisors because France was eager to assist anyone fighting the British. This wasn't a disorganised mob. This was a well-trained, properly equipped military force commanded by rulers who'd studied European tactics and understood what they faced. Shah Alam II's infantry commander was Jean-Baptiste Gentil, an experienced French officer with extensive combat experience. Gentil knew European warfare. He understood British methods. He knew how to counter European advantages. The Allied army marched with confidence. They outnumbered any British force by at least 4 or 5 to 1. They had competent leadership, and they had the Mughal Emperor's authority behind them. October 1764. The Allied army camped near Buxar on the Awadh-Bengal border. Strong position. Ganges on the left, Tora Nala stream on the right, earthworks in front. Shah Alam II waited out monsoon weather before pushing into Bengal. His army was huge and well supplied. The British would attack prepared positions with a tiny force. Victory seemed inevitable. News reached Calcutta. The company responded immediately. They'd fight. They'd crush this alliance militarily and prove British arms could defeat any Indian power. Major Hector Munro commanded the expedition, the same officer who defeated Mir Kasim repeatedly. Munro was tough, strict about discipline, demanded precise execution, even in battle chaos. His troops respected him because he led from the front. His enemies feared him because he'd never lost. Munro gathered every available soldier, European troops from Bengal European Battalion, Marines and British Army detachments, Indian sepoys trained in European style, Indian cavalry, artillery crews. When Munro marched toward Buxar in October 1764, he commanded approximately 7,000 combat troops. 7,000 versus 40,000. Nearly 6 to 1 odds. The Allies had more infantry, more cavalry, more artillery, more everything except one thing: European military discipline. October 22nd, 1764. Dawn. The armies faced each other. The Allied force deployed with Ganges protecting their left, earthworks in front, Toranala protecting their right. Shah Alam II commanded centre. Shuja-ud-Dawla held the right. Mir Kasim commanded reserves. Munro divided his small army into 3 sections. Major Stibbett commanded the left with British troops. Major Champion commanded the right with Bengal troops. The centre had Bengal cavalry with sepoy support. A thin line, but every section knew its job. Hold formation, fire disciplined volleys, advance only on command. At daybreak, the Allied army attacked first. Mirza Najaf Khan, commanding the Mughal right, advanced. This was the moment. Would British discipline hold? Munro's troops formed battle lines in 20 minutes. When Allied forces came within range, British firepower proved devastating. Volley fire, entire companies firing simultaneously. Front rank fires, rear rank fires while front reloads. Continuous, disciplined, deadly firepower that never stopped. The advancing Mughal forces took horrific casualties. Within 1 hour, their assault reversed. The Mughal right fell back. British troops hadn't broken formation once, but the battle continued. The Allied army had reserves. Fresh troops advanced. For hours, brutal combat. Musket fire creating smoke clouds. Artillery exchanges. Cavalry probing for gaps. The Allies had numbers. The British had discipline. Grinding attritional warfare. Major Champion spotted an opportunity. A village anchored the Allied left flank. If captured, the British could attack from the side. Champion advanced, fought through savage, close-quarters combat, secured the village. Everything changed. The Allied left flank was exposed. Champion's troops could fire into the flank of Allied forces. Munro ordered general advance. British centre and left pushed forward, while Champion threatened encirclement. This destroyed the Allied advantage. The army was huge but uncoordinated. 3 different commanders with different objectives, poor communication. When Champion's flanking manoeuvre rolled up their left, confusion spread. Units received conflicting orders. Some held, some retreated, some counterattacked. The battle line fragmented into chaos. Munro pressed ruthlessly. British troops advanced in formation, firing volleys that cut down anyone who stood against them. Cavalry charges failed. British squares held firm. Musket fire dropping horses before they could close. Allied artillery couldn't target British troops without hitting their own men in the confused melee. By midday, the Allied army disintegrated. Shuja-ud-Dawla blew up his ammunition magazines. Massive explosions visible for miles. Then he fled. Crossed the Ganges, destroyed the bridge, abandoned Shah Alam II and Mir Kasim on the battlefield. The psychological impact was devastating. If one coalition leader fled, why stay and die? The army's cohesion collapsed. Shah Alam II, abandoned, had no choice but retreat. His forces shattered. Naga troops fought desperate rearguards, protecting the emperor's withdrawal. The Ganges and Toranala became death traps. Soldiers drowning, weighed down by armour. British riflemen picking off anyone reaching the water. The rivers ran red. Mir Kasim fled with 3 million rupees in gemstones. Everything salvaged from Bengal. He died penniless in 1777. By early afternoon, Buxar was over. A 40,000-man army routed by 7,000 British troops in 4 hours. Total annihilation. The casualties tell the story. British losses approximately 850 killed, wounded or missing. Higher estimates reach 1,200. Even at worst, only 15 to 17% casualties. Remarkably light for a 4-hour battle against 6 times larger force. Allied casualties catastrophic. Conservative estimates 2,000 killed with thousands wounded. Higher estimates 6,000 to 7,000 total. Beyond that, the army dissolved. Thousands deserted. When Shuja-ud-Dawla and Shah Alam II counted forces, they'd lost more than half their army. The British captured 133 artillery pieces, over 1 million rupees in cash, ammunition stores, everything. Complete annihilation. The aftermath reshaped India. Robert Clive negotiated the Treaty of Allahabad in August 1765. Devastating terms. Shah Alam II granted the company Divani rights, the right to collect taxes in Bengal, Bihar, Orissa. A private trading corporation now controlled tax collection for India's 3 richest provinces. The wealth of 40 million people flowed into company coffers. This was direct administrative control. Shuja-ud-Dawla ceded Allahabad and Kara districts, paid 50 lakh rupees immediately, another 25 lakh in instalments. Awadh became effectively a British client state. Mir Kasim got nothing, died penniless in exile. The company installed another puppet in Bengal, but everyone knew who ruled. Clive instituted dual government. Company controlled revenue and military. Nawab retained ceremonial status. The British ruled Bengal absolutely. Why does Buxar matter more than Plassey? Because Plassey was bribery. Buxar proved Britain could defeat the Mughal Empire in straight combat. It proved European discipline could overcome massive numerical superiority. After Buxar, no Indian ruler could dismiss the British as mere merchants. The wealth from Bengal fueled expansion. The company used Bengali tax revenues to build larger armies, train more sepoys, purchase artillery. Over 40 years they systematically conquered most of India, always using wealth secured at Buxar. Buxar exposed Indian resistance's fatal weakness: disunity. Three powerful rulers united, assembled massive forces, had every advantage except coordination. They lost because Shuja-ud-Dawla abandoned his allies. The British, outnumbered 6-1, maintained perfect coordination. Major Hector Munro became one of the most celebrated British commanders. His victory earned him a knighthood and permanent place in military history as the man who proved European tactics could defeat any Indian army, regardless of size. The human cost was enormous. Thousands died. The Ganges ran red for days. For soldiers who fought, British regulars, sepoys, Mughal warriors, Afghan cavalry, it was brutal close-range combat. Musket balls tearing flesh, artillery fire shredding formations, bayonet charges, the chaos and terror of 18th century warfare. But from the British perspective, Buxar was triumph. 7,000 defeated 40,000, conquered India's richest region, secured revenues funding a century of expansion. Proved British discipline and courage could overcome any opposition. Buxar set the pattern for the next century. At Asai, Alival, Miani, smaller British forces defeated larger opponents through principles Munro demonstrated. Maintain formation, fire coordinated volleys, exploit confusion, press advantages ruthlessly. If this fascinates you, battles where Britain faced impossible odds and won, victories through military superiority, not conspiracy, moments when discipline overcame numerical inferiority, you know what to do. These stories deserve to be told. Thank you for watching Britain's history. The stories that mattered, told the way they deserved.